Welcome to the What Is She Even Reading podcast.
I'm Claire, and I love to read.
I'm Jeremy, and I don't.
Join us each week as we read through some of today's most popular books as Jeremy discovers what is she even reading. Hello, and welcome back to What Is She Even Reading? I'm Claire.
I'm Jeremy.
And today we are recording the final episode for A Court of Mist and Fury, chapters 52 through 69. Woo!
Oh, wow.
And spoiler, we recorded the episode you heard last week, yesterday, in real world. But Jeremy, I woke up and he was already halfway through this section and couldn't help himself. So I sped
This
read
was
to
the
catch
best
up
section of the book.
It was. Are you hooked now?
A little.
Like in the series? Were you unsure? Now you're kind of hooked?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be a little annoyed when there's another boring section, but I'm sure I'll trudge through.
Well, that's just a real world how the recording goes. But we're back 52 through 69, and just a reminder, there are going to be spoilers for now. All of A Court of Thorns and Roses and A Court of Mist and Fury. So if you've not read it, not finished it, save this and come back. Shall we get into it?
Yes.
You're dying to talk about it, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so chapter 52, we left her up at the house in the mountains.
At the cabin.
Yes.
Basically.
And she had just found out that Rhysand was her mate.
And
she was mad
about
it. Yes. So, my first note is they have the best bathtubs in whatever house they are at. And I just want to go to one of them. Because they said it's like not even a bathtub. It's like a pool. A heated pool. Sounds lovely.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't you want to get in a bathtub like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a deep sunken pool in the floor of the mountain cabin. Large enough to accommodate Illyrian wings.
Yep.
So it's just a pool. I bet you could swim now. Like, it's like a hot tub.
Yeah.
Did you bathe in it?
Yeah.
Anyways. That's my first note.
Yeah. Then, she's rummaging around the house, finding things for her, and she finds some clothes. And it's described as a sweater, dark leggings, and thick socks. Which is basically basic white girl fall outfit.
Yeah, I had recently seen a TikTok about, like, oh, this is what I imagined they were wearing in ACOTAR. And it's like the classic fantasy, like what you see at like a Renaissance fair, like dresses. But I mean, obviously she wears very like risque outfits too, so like they're not afraid to show skin. But the leggings, you like, where's her Uggs, right? She's got her Rory Gilmore sweater on, like, and her leggings, and very non-traditional fantasy wear.
Yes.
Either that or it's just the way that they're describing it, and it's more fantasy based. But it sounds like basic white girl clothes. So,
yeah.
Fall outfit.
Yeah.
Is she a fall girl, you think? A fall girl?
She's a night girly. As we come to learn.
Okay, and then basically the rest, like some of this, she's just going, so was he really saving me on my wedding day? Or was like he interrupting me to save me, or interrupting me to like, because I'm his mate and he didn't want me to marry someone else. Basically, she's all upset at him. Her relationship with Tamlin had been doomed from the start.
Yep.
And then she's like, well, I had been with Tamlin this whole time, and like he knew that we were mates and he never said anything, so maybe he just doesn't care about me.
Yeah. Basically,
she's spiraling a little bit. Feeling sorry for herself.
Yes. She comments, skipping ahead slightly. She can't decide if she's mad at Mor and Amren for knowing.
Yes.
And that Rhys had ordered them to keep quiet. She was wondering if he'd come looking for her. And then she's lamenting a little that she'd walked away from him a day after she'd told him that was the only thing, or she was the only thing he was the only thing she would never walk away, if I could get my words out of my mouth.
So basically his worst nightmare
Yes.
came true.
Yes.
So she feels bad.
Yes.
But then all of a sudden she's like, I'm really bored.
She got
bored. I think this
I
might be the next day.
think it's the next day,
Because she kind of just wanders around, sleeps, takes a bath, and then eats some food. And then the next day she's like, I'm so bored.
Yeah, so she starts going through all the drawers and closets.
Yeah, because she said, it made me nosy, my boredom. That's true of anywhere you go. You start looking through.
True. She notes that she finds weapons everywhere. A stained cookbook, all sorts of stuff. And then she goes in the supply closet, and she finds paint.
Yes.
Paper and a few canvases and brushes and other stuff. So then she starts painting all day. Painted through the night. Just paint. And then I guess it's a couple days later or something, and the next day, and then Moore shows up, knocks on the door.
Yes.
Because she can't winnow straight in. And then, more comments. You've been busy. She's painted nearly every surface in the main room. And really, she's painted all over this house. Which I think is a little, rude. She's just painted this house that doesn't belong to her.
Yeah, I've always, when I read this the first time, I was like, why would she paint someone else's house?
Yeah.
And, I know she's, part of their family.
Yeah.
But she's only known them for a couple months.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really get, I like art and I like painting and crafts. But, I have never considered just, painting every surface of our home, including, tables and stuff. Even when she did that at our little shack in the woods with her sisters, it was a little strange that she painted on the table and stuff like that. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she had painted not just, flower, little icicle, she painted icicles. I don't know, just kind of weird, personally.
Yeah, she painted bits and pieces of everyone else. And then Amren's eyes are above a bedroom hallway or something. Yeah,
because she painted the Illyrian wings.
Over the fireplace.
Yeah. And then she painted her eyes. And she's Moore's why are Amren's eyes there?
Yeah.
And her response is, because she's always watching. Which, is true. So Moore's hey, paint mine next to hers too. So that they'll, the males will always know that we're always watching them when they come up here to get drunk for a week or whatever. There's plenty of memes of this, and, the eyes, just, everywhere. The eyes, I think, are kind of weird. I might be able to get past, the icicles and the flowers and everything, but, the eyeballs
eyes are strange.
Are kind of strange.
Yes. We learned that every autumn, the boys would come up to this house and just drink and get drunk. Mm-hmm. And then go back to Valaris.
Yeah, and then she's like, you should just hear him out. Reese had his reasons for not telling you, basically.
Yeah. And then she's, talking to Moore a bit. Asks if she's ever had relations with Azrael.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But she swore off any of Reese's friends.
Really, Feyre is a busybody, too. They keep saying Cassian is a busybody,
but they all are.
Feyre's Little Miss Matchmaker.
Yeah. Moore's asking, is it really that bad to be his mate? She's like, no, it's not. And then she said, at the end of this chapter, she says, and I had my answer. Which is a little what? Answer to what?
If she wanted to be his mate.
Oh, I guess so.
That's why she came up there to think.
I guess that's true.
Because that's what she asked, is it really so bad to be his mate, to be a part of our court, our family, tangled history and all. And then that's when she said, no, it's not. And I had my answer. So.
Okay. Well, that's the end of that chapter. Chapter 53, Moore stays for sleepover.
Yes.
And she does some stick figure painting too, which is funny.
3 females with absurdly long, flowing hair that all resembled hers, and 3 winged males. So.
Yep. She talks about how like she'd stay there a little bit longer and then would go home, or then go back to him and then go home to Valaris.
Yes.
So she comments that when she previously said Valaris was not her home, now it is.
Yes.
She's like, how sweet. And she dreams of a little future for herself. And yeah, got direction, a goal. So I knew what I had to do.
But then she stays there for 5 more days.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. Just to make him wait it out?
I guess.
But she had her answer like 5 days ago.
Yeah.
I would stay maybe a day and then be like, I guess I should go.
Yeah. But she comments that Moore had winnowed in extra paint and food. But didn't Moore comment that the house was spelled, so all she had to do was say what she wanted?
Maybe she just...
And it would show up. So she could have said, I need more paint, house. And more paint would have showed up. Or I need some more food, house. And more food would have showed up. Or did I misunderstand that? Like, why does she need more to do it for her?
I don't know.
Not that it's really an important detail.
Well, I know, but... Because they did say they had preserved food there. So obviously, like, the house isn't just going to, like, poof, make food.
I guess so.
So the food I get, the paint, I don't know. Maybe it's just spelled to, like, keep warm and...
I guess so.
You know, not fall apart. I don't know. It had a spell for, I think this was the house. No dust was anywhere.
Yes.
I did like that. I was like, I need a spell for that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That's a good point.
Yeah. But then there's another knock at the door. And it's not Moore.
Of course not.
No.
Finally.
That's the end of the chapter.
He waited like 6 days.
Well, he had to heal.
That's true.
Because she left him naked in the freezing mud, basically.
That's true.
Or wrapped in her clothes as best she could in the freezing mud.
True.
Then it's chapter 54.
The best chapter of the whole book.
Yes. So Ulrich Sand's there. He
also has taken in the paintings.
Yes. And he had to fly there. Because he didn't want to use the magic and whatnot. So he didn't
and he didn't know where she was.
No, but he figured there was only a few places that Moore would take her.
Yeah.
And then, she says, like, why she came up there or whatever is, because I was so mad at you for not telling me. Then because I was worried. This is about the painting, right? She says at first because I was so mad at you for not telling me.
Because he asked why you didn't paint his eyes.
Oh, yeah.
Because she painted everyone's eyes except for her own and his.
Yeah. It's in the bottom half of this paragraph highlighted.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then she was scared that if I painted them, I'd start wishing you were here so much that I just stare at them all day. It seemed like a pathetic way to spend my time, which I guess she must be a pretty good painter if she can paint their eyes well enough that Moore can just point out, those are Amren's eyes instead of just a random pair of eyes.
Well, that's what, everyone kind of, like, the joke of a lot of the memes is that she's a crappy painter. Yeah. But again, I stand by that. In the first book, Nesta's like, will you teach me how to paint? And she wouldn't have asked her because Nesta does not sugarcoat anything. I think she would have said, you really suck at painting. Could you stop painting every surface?
True.
So she must be a good painter. It's funny to think that she's not. But yes, I mean, other than Amren has very distinct silver eyes. So that would be easy to pick out.
True.
But I feel like she must be a good painter.
Yeah. So then she does a critical thing of offering to make Rhysand food. Well, heat him up some food.
Yes.
She can't cook. But it's apparently an important moment when a female offers her mate food.
Yes.
Goes back to whatever beast we were a long time ago. But it still matters. Some of them even throw a party. But it means that the female accepts the bond.
Yeah, because he kind of startles, like, you would cook me
Yeah.
food. And she's like, you got to tell me the rules. I don't understand.
Yeah.
Which,
It's fair to her.
yeah.
But also, like, what?
At least he didn't accept it and then, say, yes, I would like some food and then tell her afterwards.
Yeah, true.
That would have been a big mistake on his part.
Yes, it would just pissed her off more.
So basically she's like, well, tell me the story and then I'll decide if I want to offer.
While I'm heating up this soup.
I'll decide if I want to give it to you or
I
not.
want to offer it to you, yeah. So then he basically launches into not quite his life story, but
Their love story.
Their love story.
It's so sweet, isn't it?
Yes.
Did it have you swooning?
A little, I guess. I don't know.
Admit it.
He talks about the chains from being one of Hybern's greatest assets, the stone delved from deep in their land, capable of nullifying a high fate's powers. And he kind of, this is skimming over a lot of the details.
Yeah, because he started back when he got captured by Amarantha.
Yes.
At the end of the war.
Yes.
Or during the war.
Yes. He started seeing, did he open with the, 3 years ago, he started, seeing these memories or having these dreams.
So he had been captured under the mountain. And Amarantha had captured, and they were torturing him.
Oh yeah, okay.
And his family didn't know where he was, and then he was like, "I'm going to kill Amarantha and just meet my end," basically. But then she and Jurian faced each other on the battlefield.
That's right, and this is back in the war.
Yes, right when he got captured in the war.
Yes,
because he had previously almost told the story, and then they cut him off, or he cut someone else off. So his dad, I guess because she was distracted, his dad came and rescued him.
Yes.
And his dad, who seems like a very kind and loving man, told Azrael to leave the ash spikes in Rhysand's wings as punishment for getting caught.
Yeah.
So nice. So then the wall went up, basically.
Yeah.
And then, so he had gone somewhere, and Amarantha returned.
Yeah.
And he still wanted to kill her.
450 years later, he still wanted to kill her when she showed back up.
And she didn't know who he was. So he told no one he was going.
Yeah.
And he went to this party under the mountain.
Yes. And she cursed Tamlin, but she also tricked him because he was offered a drink or something. The drink was spelled, and he wasn't paying attention to that. And within a few seconds, his power belonged to her. And so he was as the power was going away,
he threw out where his friends had to stay in Valaris to protect Valaris, which is why they never came to
put all the protections up and whatnot.
And then she cursed Tamlin, and so he was like, my greatest enemy became the one loophole that might free us all.
Yes.
So that's when 3 years ago, he began to have these dreams that were fuzzy.
Yes.
Of painter hands.
His beautiful human hand holding a brush, painting flowers on a table.
Yeah.
Who do we know that paints flowers on a table?
And at that time, I pushed one thought back.
Yes, of the night sky.
So.
The image that brought him joy when he needed the most. Open night sky, stars and the moon.
Which is
what she painted for herself
on the
dresser.
Yes. So
he was in her dream.
Yeah, because her dreams kept getting more. So then, he just saw glimpses of her. It was always fuzzy. Yes. And then all of a sudden they were
a year ago.
Yeah, the dreams were less fuzzy, she was dreaming of someone strangling her and of the
adder and whatnot, all that other stuff.
Yeah, so he couldn't place where she was, but she knew she was on
Prithian.
Yes. And then he saw
the bonfires for Kalin Mai or whatever.
So he knew where she was.
Yes.
So he
told Amarantha he wanted to go to the celebration to spy on Tamlin.
And then that's why he said, "There you are.
I've been looking for you." Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for finding her for me.
And so then he just went back and he brought those 3 men who were going to do terrible things to her and, like, made them admit to, like, conspiring against her to torture. And so because he had had such success, he was sent back to Tamlin. And that's when she encountered him in the spring court. And he just wanted to know a name.
Yeah.
And then he knew she had lied.
Yes.
Yeah.
But he also didn't know that it was a real person, a real name that she had given him, just not hers.
Yes. And you were looking at him like you loved him and blah, blah, blah. That. So then I gave Amarantha the name thinking you had invented it. And then they went to retrieve Claire. And so when Claire came in, he basically gave her happy thoughts and she didn't feel any pain. And while they tortured her.
Yeah.
And then he eventually he killed her because they were just like torturing her.
Mercy killing.
Yeah.
Put her out of her misery.
Yes. And then she showed up and made that bargain with Amarantha. Yes. So he's like, oh, I decided that I was going to, like, fight with you. So I can find a way to keep you alive without being suspicious. And that was the bargain.
Yep.
To basically piss both Amarantha and Tamlin off.
Yeah. And, like, when we made that bargain, you were so hateful that I knew I'd done my job well. So she's still, so visibly pissed off at him that no one's going to draw it.
Yeah.
She wasn't suspicious of him. Really, no one else was suspicious of him.
Yes. And then Amarantha, because he kissed her in the mountain to cover up Tamlin. And he was mad at Tamlin for using his one chance to not, like, try to smuggle her out. Yeah. Which I agree.
Yeah.
And then Amarantha saw that he was jealous. And then when she killed her, Feyre, he felt like, I knew that was when you were my mate.
Yep. And he grabbed that bond and tugged, willed her to hold on and stay with him. Because if we could get free, then I'd make them save you, referring to the other High Lords.
Yeah.
Which he did say, like, when Amarantha died, I spoke to the High Lords mind to mind, convincing them to come forward to offer their spark of power. None of them disagreed. And then during this, Feyre notes that Home had been at the end of the bond. I'd told the Bone Carver, not Tamlin, but Rhysand. So, sweet. And at the end of the first book, when he, like, looks into her eye or whatever, he says, I almost told you then, but you were so sad and tired. And
so he's just, like, gonna leave, and then he looked her in her eyeballs. And he was like, that's when I stepped back and, like, kind of world surprised. Yeah. And just left.
I think transforming you into Fae made the bond lock into place permanently.
And he just winnowed back to Valaris and saw Mor. So that's why Mor knew.
Yeah. And he says, I hadn't seen her in 50 years, and my first words to her were, she's my mate. For 3 months, he tried to convince himself that she was better off without him. But he felt all her panic and despair, heard you beg for someone, and he wanted to save you, and this on the wedding day. So he lost it, and that's why he came to claim the bargain. He had that excuse.
And then he was mad because she had, like, withered away, basically. Yeah. And Tamlin had done nothing to help her.
Yes.
So.
And he said, I knew I was in love with you the moment I picked up the knife to kill Amarantha. But again, he says, I couldn't force the bond on you. And I couldn't try to seduce you into accepting it either. And then she sets the bowl down in front of him. And the whole time he's, like, crying, tearing up, all that stuff. She sets the bowl down, says, then eat. So she offers him the food, so she accepts the bond. How sweet.
Now, when you read this, were you like, wow, full circle on almost everything you've read?
Yes. Like, it kind of explains the whole thing.
I mean, from the very beginning. Because they talked about her dresser in one of the first couple chapters.
Of the first book, yeah.
And she notes, I don't know why I painted the night sky, but I just did. So.
Yeah. Anyway, good chapter. A bunch of little details we left out, of course, but...
You know, it kind of says, like, well, Moore only knew because I was distraught.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you noticed, but when she met Amren sniffed her. Mm-hmm. And I think she smelled the bond.
Because apparently the bonds stink.
Yeah.
Was sent
but, like, that's
them.
why only Azrael and Cassian, I guess they just suspect. But that's why Amren knew, because she kind of noticed it because Reese, like, nods his head at her, and she keeps it quiet, so... Was that the best chapter?
Yeah. And then chapter 55, you know, Faye was already saying I was going to tell you what I decided the moment she saw him on the threshold. She says, I love you.
And I'm honored to be your mate.
How sweet. And then she goes and licks away the tears.
They like doing that.
They like doing that. Because she's just, he breaks some of the tension.
She's kissing away one tear, not licking.
Not licking as weirdly as he did.
And this is the spicy chapter.
Yes, they consummate their mating bond, basically. They have a good time. I didn't highlight much of this. I highlighted some of it. But she's covered in paint. Mm-hmm. He becomes covered in paint. The whole house is covered in paint, obviously. But
then he starts going like, I think I knew I loved you when the moment you were like cleaving those bones to make a trap for the worm. Or maybe the moment you flipped me off for mocking you.
Yes.
And then she's kind of like rolling her eyes because he's like, it made me think of Cassian, and I hadn't laughed in a long time. And he's like, you fell in love with me because I remind you of your best friend. And he's like, I fell in love with you.
No.
Because you were one of us, because you weren't afraid of me, and you decided to end your spectacular victory by throwing that piece of bone at Amarantha like a javelin. Yes. And I felt Cassian's spirit beside me in that moment. And I could have sworn I heard him say, if you don't marry her, you stupid prick, I will.
Yeah. And then he's saying they can go back and have the bond verified by a priestess, but not one like Ianthe. And be declared officially mated, which I didn't know that was a thing.
I mean, they haven't described any of this before. So. This is all new information.
Yeah.
Or they could have a small party to celebrate.
Yeah.
Or they could get married formally.
As well.
Mm-hmm. And he's like, calling you my wife sounds appealing too. Mm-hmm. So basically, it's her choice.
Yeah.
Like,
he's not going to force her.
Yeah, like he's happy to do
whatever.
Or we can, if you want to, we can wait and do none of those things. And like, it doesn't really matter. Like, we're mated. We don't have to do
They also
anything.
have a brief discussion at some point in the chapter about children. And she's not on the tonic. But she's going to start taking the tonic again.
Yeah, because she says, I had highlighted some of it. Like, I want to live our life first and see things and have adventures. And, I mean, he's kind of like, it's probably not the right time because of the war coming.
Yeah.
But they're rare.
Yeah.
So it would be probably improbable that they would.
And they're leaving tomorrow for her family's estate.
Yes.
But then she starts, like, shining, glowing. From the day court.
Yeah.
And he removes the glamour from himself.
And he's just like darkness.
Yes.
Dark and light.
Yeah. How nice. And darkness rippled from him like tendrils of steam, which is interesting.
That's basically the gist of the chapter.
Yeah.
So most people are either chapter 54 people or chapter 55 people. And there's no shame in either one. Which one did you like more?
I preferred 54 more because I thought it served the story more.
You didn't want the spicy.
I didn't care. I mean, whatever.
I'm not judging you. I'm just curious.
No, I'm reading this book for the plot.
Okay.
Not the smut.
Okay. Well, you're not going to ask me which one.
Which one do you like?
I like 50. I'm a 54.
Yeah, I know.
Girly.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like it connects everything.
Yes.
It's just like,
yeah.
Things you didn't even probably realize.
Yes.
So.
And then that's basically the chapter.
So this is that chapter 55. I have a bookmark that I got free
Yeah, that was just like sitting downstairs.
And you're like, is this the chapter 55 of this book? And I was like, guess you'll find out.
Because I feel like I'd heard it or seen it somewhere else too.
It's like people talk about chapter 55 a lot, so.
So then, chapter 56,
Yep.
they go back to the war camp.
And
Cassian's like, well, it's about time.
And he just keeps picking on him.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, is it chafing a little bit? Feyre doesn't look too tired. Maybe she could give me a ride. But the whole time, there are the Illyrian warriors in the camp began shooting into the sky, hauling women and children with them. So they know.
Yeah.
And they basically just run into this big fight.
Yeah, I think, because they talked about previously that, like, once I guess in the previous chapter, when the mating bond first clicks, it's like a frenzy, basically, and like they can't keep their hands off each other, and like normal males do all sorts of stuff. So what is the most powerful High Lord doing? So Cassian's basically trying to get him pissed off, make him fight him rather than do something else.
Well, that's what she notes. She's like, he had seen the edge in Rhys's eyes and known he had to dull it before we could go any further, and Rhys had known too, which is why we came here and not gone to Valaris. So, basically they fought for like over an hour.
Yeah, just beating each other up in the mud.
I don't know. I thought that was funny. And then, I think Moore's just kind of rolling her eyes.
Yeah.
Like, come on in while they fight it out, basically. So, and then they go home to Valaris. And Amren, Cassian, and I guess all four of them, right? Amren, Cassian, Moore, and Azrael are like, we will serve and protect, basically Feyre. So, and they headed out to go to her sister's to meet the queens.
Yeah, a lot of the chapters in this section are kind of short. Quick fire, little.
Which again, I'm like, why did they go to the Illyrian war camps to train her out elsewhere?
I don't really know, other than maybe get a little far, like to get farther away from
Valaris.
Hybern.
Oh,
because I looked at the map. That's why I was looking at the map this morning. Because Valaris is on the side of the island, closer towards the Hybern, which I always thought it was like right at the top.
Yeah,
but it's not. It's like on the west. So, yeah, I don't really know.
they probably said it and we just forgot.
Probably.
Okay, so 57, the queens have shown up, and only the eldest and the golden hair queens came.
Yes.
And
they say they were insulted last time. Feyre said, if that was the worst insult you've ever heard, you're in for quite a shock when war comes. And basically, they go on a little bit, our people do not invoke a cauldron, or we don't have magic. There's your people and ours.
They're very high and mighty, basically. Which, we know the flip side of this, and they've probably already decided what side they're on, but we don't know that yet.
Yes.
So.
But Feyre kind of has this, like, they're about to show them the orb, and Feyre's kind of like, don't do it.
Yeah.
She's thinking, don't do it, don't show them.
Yeah.
Kind of has this, like, gut feeling, don't do it.
Yeah, she's like, is my love for the High Lord not proof enough of our good intentions? Does not my sister's presence here speak to you? Like, there's an iron engagement ring upon my sister's finger, and yet she stands with us. And they were like, that just proves that she's an idiot, basically. Yeah. So, no.
Yeah. And then, Rhys says in her mind that war is a sacrifice. If we do not gamble Valaris, we risk losing Prithian and more. So then they present the Veritas, the orb. Morrigan says, I am the Morrigan, which is funny.
I speak truth.
Yes. And then it shows them, it's like the cloud of smoke or something, and it shows them Rhys flying through Valaris. So I was imagining Soren at Disney World or Disneyland.
Yeah.
Depending on your
I mean, yeah, it's kind of like
coaster choice.
That's what you're envisioning, right?
Yes. And then, they show her this thing, and then the old one's just like, we will consider. So, like, what a bitch. I mean, obviously we know about them later, but, like, what a bitch. She asked for proof. They gave her proof. The most guarded secret that basically no one knows.
Yeah.
And she's just like,
we'll see.
We'll think about it.
And then they're like, did you think we would just be moved by your letter?
Yeah.
And no one knows what they're
talking about.
But he wrote to the queens and said, I write to you not as a high lord, but as a male in love with a woman who is once human. I write to beg to you to act quickly, to save her people, to help save my own. I write to you one day so we might know true peace, so I might one day be able to live in a world where the woman I love may visit her family without fear of hatred and reprisal. A better world.
Yeah. And then the old one says, who's to say this is not some grand manipulation? Mm-hmm. And Moore's getting kind of annoyed with them.
Yes.
And then Nesta pipes up. This is the talk of mad women of arrogant, stupid fools. So even she's like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah, like, why'd you show back up then?
Yeah.
Like, why are you just dragging us along?
The run around like this?
Yeah, so Nesta's mad.
Yeah, and she then just says, give them the book.
And
she says it a couple times, and they're like,
no. And Cassian goes up to Nesta and is like, 500 years ago, I fought on battlefields not far from this house, beside human and fairy, bled beside them. I will stand on that battlefield again, Nesta Archeron, to protect this house, your people. I can think of no better way to end my existence than to defend those who need it most.
Cassian's got a little crush on Nesta.
You think so?
Yes, obviously. Because she's all gotten all worked up. And then
I think it's sweet that he's like,
it is sweet.
Basically, I will die for you.
Yes.
Like, don't worry.
Yes.
Because she's going, we're alone out here.
Yeah.
Like, you can't save us.
Yeah. Then Moore's pushing back, you're already going to say no. And they even say, perhaps. We appreciate the gesture of your trust. And then they disappear.
Yeah, because Feyre's like, the whole time, like, Rhys has gone quiet. He's not saying anything.
Yeah.
And then she's watching him, and he's been just watching the chair where the golden-haired queen had been seated, and beneath it, somehow hidden by her voluminous skirts where she'd sat, was a box. So it was the final piece of the book.
It sang to her. Mm-hmm. Life and death and rebirth, sun and moon and dark, rotten bloom and bones. Hello, sweet thing. Hello, lady of night, princess of decay. Hello, fanged beast and trembling fawn. Love me, touch me, sing me.
Yeah, this was Love Me, Touch Me. It's like the Grey's Anatomy. Pick me, choose me, love me.
Yeah. And there's a note in there.
Yes.
And the it's from the golden-haired one. She had snuck it out. She believed him. Mm-hmm. She believes in peace and a better world. If anyone asks, you stole this during the meeting. Do not trust the others. The sixth queen was not ill.
Yeah, which was the previous meeting.
Yes.
So.
And then they
give Nesta and Elaine the option to come with them or not.
I was trying to decide who it was that offered it to them.
I think it's Rhysand.
I think so.
Because he says
one of them
will have if you choose to stay, he'll have the soldiers here within the hour, and they'll like basically be hidden.
Yeah.
But they'll come in at like noon and midnight into the living room, and you can tell them if you want to like leave, basically, or you can come like live with us in the city we just showed you, basically.
Yes.
We'll take care of you.
Yeah. And, she's saying, my home is your home. The doors are always open to you. And is it Nesta that says that's why you painted stars on your drawer? Mm-hmm. Referring to Rhysand.
Yeah, because they chose to stay.
Yes.
Nesta gave Elaine the choice.
Yes. They chose to stay.
And, like, Nesta would go to Prithian only for her.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Which maybe they should have gone with them.
Yeah.
As we'll find out in the coming chapters.
Yes. So chapter 58, they immediately return to Valaris, not trusting the queens to not, notice that the book is gone.
Yes.
And they're just waiting, because Amren took the book and disappeared. And it's been 2 days.
Yeah. It says 2 days passed, Amren still hadn't cracked the code. So she's had the other half for weeks, and presumably she hasn't cracked that.
Well, because she couldn't crack it because she needed both of them.
I guess so.
And she only had the other one to try to practice her language.
I guess that's true.
I mean, I get both sides.
They never informed us that she had relearned the language, is what I guess my brain was.
Yeah. She still
didn't know how to read it.
Because I don't think she could crack the code on one without the other one being connected.
Sure.
I'm imagining a real book where you'd read left to right on both pages. So that's why she needed both sides, but who knows? So, Reese has gone with Moore back to the Hewn City. So she's there with Cassian and Azrael, who've taken up basically staying with her, and she's asking Rhysand about it, and he's like, well, I mean, if they're overstepping, tell them to leave, but they're just gonna sit on the steps or the roof or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think it's kind of well, you're now important to their High Lord. Of course, they're gonna stay and protect you. But they were still gone. Amren's looking at the book. Azrael went off on patrol of the city, and Cassie and I, of all things, she even notes, just finishing up an early afternoon performance of some ancient revered face symphony.
They went to a concert, basically.
And they're walking back. And they're looking for jewels or a present for her sisters.
Yes. She wonders if he'd send anything to Nesta.
But then
they're like, what is that over on the horizon? Mm-hmm. And so it notes that he taps the siphon on each hand with a finger.
Yes.
And scaled black armor begins unfolding and slithering up his wrists. It's like an Iron Man suit,
That's
basically.
What I was thinking.
Especially, the fancier ones toward, the later movie.
Yeah.
Where it just, goes around him,
Yeah, I didn't know that's what they would do. That seems like fancy magic.
It does.
I mean, I guess they have magic, but still. And he keeps telling her to leave.
He's
go
like,
home.
get out of here,
And
go,
she's like,
go.
no.
Because on the horizon, it's a smear of black, swift moving, spreading wider as it grew closer. Mm-hmm. And then he lifts his hand in the air, and red light explodes out of his siphon, and it creates a force field. Mm-hmm. And it's a bunch of creatures that are all like the Adder.
Dun, dun,
Bum,
dun.
bum, bum. And they all have these gloves or what are gauntlets of the stone that broken repels the magic. Mm-hmm. Straight from the unholy trove of the King of Hybern. And then a body comes down on the lamppost or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's the golden-haired queen. Which is unfortunate. It says her eyes have been plucked out.
Yeah, basically she'd been tortured, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
And the Adder says, regards of the mortal queens and Jurian. Mm-hmm. And so now she's like, okay, I got to get back to the townhouse.
Yeah, she runs.
Because she says it was warded, no one would get in, not even these things. But I was questioning, don't they have the stuff that nullifies the magic, or does that not apply?
I don't know.
They'd
have to break through the wards.
Type of magic?
I guess so.
Like they're stronger magic?
Maybe. You'd have to break through them?
I don't know. Because they've got these gauntlets that...
I don't know. Good point. But maybe she just wasn't thinking. I mean, maybe it is a stronger magic. It would hold longer for her.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But she says those queens had given the city of art, music, and food over to those monsters, and the king must have used the cauldron to break its wards. So why does that not apply to the wards of that?
Well, he broke the wards to Valaris. He didn't break the individual
wards. Didn't break all of the wards.
So I'm guessing their little magic stones wouldn't have broken the wards.
I guess that's true.
So,
But really her instincts of don't tell them were right.
yeah.
So, and then I think she comments, like, hands encased in stone tumbled from the sky, only hands, because across the river or whatever is Amryn, and she's just pointing at people and they're falling.
Yes.
And then, she's running around looking for people. They're trying to get back home, but there's a bunch of soldiers, and so she goes to the Sidra, which is like the river, whatever, the water. She becomes ancient and deep, and she has a bunch of wolves of water that go and start killing these Hybern soldiers.
Yeah, they're drowning them.
They're drowning them, which is pretty badass.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty cool.
And then if they, like, started flying away, they became birds and would follow them and drown them.
And then, or in some cases, they turned to ice and just froze them. Like, I didn't highlight it, but it was like such a deep freeze. Like,
they would just shatter when they fell to the ground. Very scary.
Yes. And then one of the soldiers rose up above the brightly painted buildings, and she knew him. It was the Adder. And earlier she had commented, like, she didn't trust herself winnowing, so she was just running, but now she's like, whatever, and I'll winnow. She winnows into the sky. That's the end of the chapter.
Yes. And I know you don't agree with me. I'll have to put the picture up, but what's the guy's name that I showed you from Mario Party?
Yes.
Okay, the guy from Mario Party, or he might just be from the Mario world, Kamek. He wears, like, the blue hooded robe, and he has these glasses, and he rides a broom, and he goes like, hee hee hee. That's what I've always pictured with the Adder. And I know it's not obviously what he looks like at all, because the guy has wings, and he has, like, a split tongue and scary, like a serpentine face, all sorts of scary nonsense. But I don't know why, but that's what I always picture.
Yeah.
You're picturing Edna Mode. I'm picturing Kamek from...
And the Alaskan bullworm from SpongeBob.
Yeah, so...
In chapter 59, she's determined to kill the Adder. And then Rhysand shows up, death incarnate, night triumphant, she notes.
And she's like, he keeps going in her brain, like, where are you? And she just,
I'm right where I need to be.
She shuts him out, basically.
Yeah, she's forcing him out. And she slams into the Adder, like, he's trying to fly away. And she has picked up some of the poisoned ash arrows. She plunges them through his wings, through his muscles. She, like, wraps herself around him and becomes a living flame that burned everywhere, which I get that, she can somewhat control these powers when she's mad, but it seems like we've missed some of her training.
Well, I think it's because she's mad.
I guess so.
Like,
she can just do it.
Has better... I mean, she doesn't even have to control it. She just has to be, like, able to use it.
Does it.
Yeah.
And then she starts, like, stabbing him with their blade, and it's like, this is for such and such, bam. This is for Rhys, bam. And then she whispers, like, this is for me. Or no, and then she whispers, I'll see you in hell. And leaves her blade in his side and, like, jumps off of him.
Yeah. And he's presumed dead.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think they confirmed that he's dead. And Rhysand gives her a new name, Feyre Cursebreaker, the Defender of the Rainbow.
Yeah, because she had gone to the Artist District to defend them.
Yes.
So.
And that's the end of that chapter.
Yes.
Pretty quick. So, and I guess, they get everyone else out, basically. Like, the Adder was kind of like the last of them.
Yeah.
Chapter 60. So they've rebuilt the wards that the Cauldron took out. And she notes that Azrael's blue siphons were dull. I guess, slightly going back to the other chapter, at one point, Azrael's there. She notes that there's... Cassian's got red light that comes out of his stones, and he's got blue light. I just thought that's kind of cool.
Yeah, basically everyone's exhausted. Rhys is exhausted. They said that Amryn was sleeping on Azrael's shoulder, and he looked like kind of panicked about it because she was like leaning on him, and I'm sure that's alarming as Amryn seems very scary. But
And they talk about Amryn, like how Amryn was doing her thing. She had spun illusions straight into the soldier's mind. Some of them believed they had fallen into the Sidra and were drowning. Some of them believed they were flying 1,000 feet above and had dived fast and swift, but then the ground's right there.
Mm-hmm. And like the crueler ones, she gave them like horrific nightmares or something.
Some of them just disappeared altogether somehow. And they're asking if we all go to Highburn to destroy the cauldron, who will defend the city? Which I think Amryn says she will.
Amryn's like, I'll stay, and like y'all go, and I'll, Which I mean, I would leave her. She seemed like she
can handle it.
She's like, we're better prepared now. Like we'll know that they're coming.
Yeah.
Because that was just like an ambush, basically.
Yeah.
So. And
then she's kind of like, now what? And they say, we sleep and we eat, and then we retaliate. And she's later talking to Rhys. She's apologizing for shutting him out. Mm-hmm. But he's also telling her, you should be impressed in that shield, what you did to the adder. But then he's like, you could have been killed. Yeah. And then they have some relations again. And
on the roof,
under the stars. And then the next day, Amryn has cracked the code.
Finally.
The news is not good. And it's like she's got to nullify the cauldron's power, has to touch the cauldron and speak these words that she wrote down on a paper. Mm-hmm. And Favor's asking, what happens if we put both halves of the book together? And Amryn says, don't put them together. That's important for later. And they basically say, like, it'll send out a blast of power that'll be felt in every corner and hole of the earth. Mm-hmm.
And you won't just attract the king of Highburn. You'll draw enemies from far older and more wretched. Things that have long been asleep and should remain so. So what do you think that is?
I have no clue.
Are you worried now?
A little. And so they're making their plan because they want to move quickly. Rhys can't winnow without being tracked, but so Moore and Azrael will winnow everyone in. Favor breaks the cauldron and they get out.
Yeah, because
easy peasy.
But then Rhys is staying outside.
Yes.
For some reason, I don't remember why.
I don't quite understand. He doesn't love the idea, but
yeah, something about like he knows who he is or something.
Yeah, he knows Rhys is sent, but he doesn't know anyone else's.
Yeah,
the king doesn't know anyone else is sent.
Yeah.
So she's like, let's go to Highburn.
Yep. And then like later that evening, I guess before they go, he gives her the ring.
Yep.
The star sapphire gleamed in the candlelight as if it was one of the Starfall spirits trapped in his stone. And we find out that it was, of course, we knew it was his mom's ring. Mm-hmm. And this was the ring that she went and got out of the weaver's cottage. And when he reached maturity, she took it away and had been handed down from like female to female over many years. His sister wasn't born yet, but his mother gave it to the weaver. And she told me that if I were to marry or mate, then the female would either have to be smart or strong enough to get it back. And if the female wasn't either of those things, then she wouldn't survive the marriage. And I promised my mom that any potential bride or mate would have the test. And so it sat there for centuries until he sent her, obviously, in there. So it was a test to see if she could, like, not only detect the object, but also can you basically live up to my mother's expectation for my future bride.
Yeah.
So, and she's like, you made me go win my wedding ring without even asking me if I wanted to marry you.
Yes. And he does say it was vital that we learn if you could detect those objects, but I picked the object out of pure selfishness. But she says, go ahead.
She's not going to wear it yet.
Yeah, she's like, I don't want to do it yet. After we nullify the cauldron, I'll do it all. And bond declared, married, throw a party, all of it.
I didn't realize, I guess I had forgotten that you get the bond declared. Can you not just like...
I think you can just live without it, but
I mean, I guess that's everyone's
official
choice.
Declaration, but...
Does it go on paperwork that you have to send to the government like us?
Well, since he's the High Lord, I think it's okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
is there like a piece of paper that says bond declared? And she's like, yeah, we'll do it when we get back. And then this is a hint as to what they end up doing.
Yes.
And he's like, and if I wanted to go one step beyond that, and she says, I'm listening.
Yes.
Which you assume is something else.
We assume that's just like children or something.
Yeah.
I want to have your babies.
Yeah.
And
But
that's in the chapter.
we know what that was.
Yes.
I think. Do you?
I do now. Having now read that line again.
Yeah.
Yes. It's chapter 61. They're like there, or like on their way or something, or ready to go. And she's got a voice near her chest whispering, hello, lovely, wicked liar.
Yeah, because she put the 2 halves of the book in her pockets.
Yes, which I then noted, how big are these? Because I was imagining like, like the size of a textbook pages.
I kind of was
Like
too, but I
large
imagine
tablets.
they're like a book size.
Now
like,
they seem like they're like hand size.
Yeah.
Like a pocket. They're obviously pocket size.
I mean, she's yeah, because they put them in
they're
pockets.
Big pockets,
But she's not a large
person,
so I would assume they're fairly tiny. Because there's 2 of them too. I thought they'd be really heavy.
I mean,
They're shoving these in their pockets, and then I feel like they're like metal sheets, so they'd be heavy.
Yeah.
I feel like my pants are being pulled down.
Yes.
They're basically saying goodbye.
Yes.
Amren's like, see ya. Cassian and Azrael are like, with my life, I'll protect Feyre. And Moore's like, I know my orders, which no one knows what that means, but...
Yet?
Well,
Or could we learn?
I mean, I think it's just to get her out.
Yeah.
Her job is to get her out if Cassian and Azrael fail. But she says, I wondered what those might be, why I hadn't been told.
True.
So, but that's what Moore's orders are, to winnow her out if something happens.
So then they're approaching the island, and she's like, no lights burned on it, but it felt old. And then she, whereas everyone has a guard shift, they plan this around this guard shift that they figured out. And the book is saying, "Home, take me home." And then they sneak their way in.
Yes.
They go down, and she's got this tug from the cauldron. And then bam.
Yeah, she says,
There it is.
Azrael spent weeks trying to figure out where it is, but I think I could have directed them to it based on the books, which probably makes Azrael feel like, well, what a waste of time.
Yeah.
But.
And then the book sighs that he's home, is happy.
And there's the cauldron.
Yes. Just sitting there on a pedestal, basically, or a dais. That's it. That chapter.
Yeah, 62.
62 talks about the cauldron was absence and presence, darkness and whatever the darkness had come from, but not life, not joy, or light or hope. It was perhaps the size of a bathtub, and forged of which, I guess, is that a human bathtub? Because we know these, at least the Illyrians have quite large bathtubs.
I'm imagining like a cauldron like you put over a flame. But I think it's bigger, obviously, than that. But it's not like a pool. It's not like a...
No, I wasn't imagining
It's not like well, I think their bathtubs are like the size of an above-ground pool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I don't think it's that big.
It's not that
big. It's like
big.
a human bathtub, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's your pretty standard witch's
Bathtub.
cauldron.
But round and not oval.
Large witch's cauldron.
Yeah. Enough, obviously we know that people will go in it. Now, it seems magic, so it probably doesn't have to be as deep. But yeah, I think it's fairly large.
Yes. She notes that it seems like the cauldron has a heartbeat. She touches it. Pain and ecstasy and power and weakness flowed into me. Everything that was and wasn't. Fire and ice, light and dark, deluge and drought.
Yeah, basically she touches it and then everything kind of...
Goes
because she
crazy.
Is like, oh, I need to say the thing, but she can't.
Yeah.
And then it's telling her to put the books together.
And so she does. Stupid girl.
So basically she's like, Amren was wrong. They do need to go together to get the spell to work.
Yes. And then
And I think Azrael's like shaking her awake.
Yeah, one of them's trying to like pull her off of it or something, and then I think he does, and then we get stupid fool. Someone says, and it's Jurian.
Dun dun dun.
Bum bum bum. There he is. He's been resurrected. That's the end of that chapter.
63.
63. Reese shows up. He's like, crap's going down. I'm in there.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm going to be around. They don't need to track me.
Yeah, and the book was instantly gone.
Yes.
His movement so slick as he took it from me and tucked it into his own jacket that I barely registered that it had happened.
Yes.
That's important for later.
Yes, it is. So Jurian's asking, where's Miriam? They're saying she's dead. He calls him a liar.
Which is interesting because Morgan...
Is truth.
It's truth, but he says you were always such a liar. This is like a theme, and I'm not trying to I'm not spoiling anything. We don't know what it means yet. But it's kind of a thing that keeps happening. Like, she is truth, but then everyone keeps calling her a liar.
Sure.
So.
But Moore says, I took her away from you. I took her to Prince Draken. And then Jurian's saying, I was sent to distract you while he worked a spell. And then you won't leave this castle unless he allows you to.
Yeah, because they were trying to leave.
Yes.
And then he's like, "Oh, I distracted you while you can't winnow away,"
Fools.
basically. So.
Yes.
And they can't feel each other's bond. That's how the magic.
Yeah.
Is.
She's it's like a fist on her powers or whatever. And yeah. I reached for Reese's mind for the bond, slammed into a hard wall, not of adamant, but of an unfeeling stone. And then someone appeared atop the stairs. I knew him in my bones. And it's the king.
Yes.
And he says, the trap was so easy. I'm honestly a bit disappointed he didn't see it coming. Which, having heard him say that, kind of makes sense. Because why would they be having this guard change like that, where they all just go away and they could just basically waltz right in?
They did, because they killed a bunch of people.
I guess they did.
They just didn't highlight it a lot.
I guess you're right. They did.
I think they thought it would just go so smoothly and they'd be able to get out if it didn't. But then they didn't count on Feyre putting the book together.
That's
and
true.
having trouble doing the spell. I think they thought it would be like that and she'd be done. They almost thought that just getting rid of the cauldron was going to be too easy.
True.
Yeah. But my question is, so the King of Hybern, they say he looks like he's like a 40-year-old human. So he's obviously human, right? Or is he fairy? How can he do magic?
I mean, maybe he was made or whatever too. And they just didn't know.
I'll have to, you can't look it up, but I'll have to look it up. Because I don't remember if we know. I've always been confused because they talk about him as if he's human.
And he's 40-something years old.
But I think maybe he's just really, really old fae. And he's just started to age.
Maybe.
I would assume you start to show your age. We talked about this in the last episode, that everyone kind of looks the same age. But at some point you have to start aging.
But later in this,
right?
He talks about eternal youth.
Yeah, so he's not human then.
No, he's obviously not human.
Yeah. I don't know. Because he has a book of spells to take their powers, which is basically how he did it.
Yes.
So he doesn't have just magic.
No.
He's got a spell book.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll have to look into it.
Yeah. And then Jurian fires an ash bolt through Azrael's chest.
Yes. And it has bloodbane on it.
Yes, of course. And it's a special bloodbane that the king can direct to his organs.
Yes, so they have to listen to him.
Yes. Now there's guards out everywhere.
Yeah, because he's taking them upstairs to the throne room.
To the throne room. A throne assembled from the bones of humans.
Yes.
Human bones.
And so the king gets up there, and they're following him to save Azrael. And he says, I've held up my end of the bargain. I expect you to uphold yours. And from the shadows appear two figures, and it's Lucian and Tamlin.
That was
You were right that he showed back up,
He's going
right?
to show back up. I didn't quite know what in what capacity. But golly, Tamlin, you rascal.
Ugh, Tamlin.
We all hate Tamlin.
I mean, I will say reading the first, like, when we did the podcast episodes on the first book, it's really hard to, like, want to, like,
even
pretend
as
to
much
love
as
him.
I knew, because I read that book.
You had read, like, the first half
in the first half of this book.
So you knew we weren't supposed to
We
love
weren't going to
him.
love Tamlin long term.
But it was really hard because I knew this too, and ultimately what he ends up doing to her family, and yeah.
So, 64, he's got his bandolier of knives, which he now realizes are Illyrian hunting blades.
Yeah. So how does he have that?
I don't know. Maybe Rhysand gave them as a gift when they were friends back in the day. I don't know.
Or were they hit Rhysand's mom and sister?
Oh, it could have been.
Weapons.
Or Rhysand's
Dads.
Dad, yeah. Anyway, something to ponder, I guess. But they made a bargain, Tamlin and the king. If the king gives her over, Tamlin agrees to let his forces enter Prythian through his territories, the Spring Court, and then use it as a base as we remove that ridiculous wall.
Tamlin.
Oh, Tamlin.
I just don't understand. Like, I know he was blinded by his quote-unquote love for her, but how did he think she was going to react as someone who was human and had a human family still on the other side of the wall? Like, how did he think she was going to be okay with, like, you know? Like, why did he step back and be like, she probably won't like me if I do this to her family? You know, like, I know he's unreasonable.
And she's got all of the High Lord's, powers were used to make her. Maybe she's,
yeah, but I mean, like,
powerful and
from a
can
very,
stop
like,
me.
basic thing of, like, I
Sure.
want her back. She's, she's trapped.
I know how to win her back.
I know how to win her
kill
back.
her family.
Yeah, like, it doesn't
I will
make...
doom her family.
And I think
to
he's
the
just
sky.
blinded, because he obviously... I mean, we'll get there, but he seems distraught by some of the things that happen throughout this thing. But it's still kind of like, why did you think she would want to come back to you when her family was always her, like, number one, why she was there in the first place? And you're just going to let them take down the wall
Yes.
where her family lives. Like, maybe he thought, well, I'll just bring her family to live with us. It'll be fine. I don't know.
Yes.
Basically, he's a fool.
Yes.
But
And then Lucian is like trying to talk to Tamlin a little bit. It almost seems like he's trying to talk him out of it or something.
I think...
But I don't know.
So we've run into Lucian, right?
Mm-hmm.
He went and tried to take her. She was like, I don't want to go back. I wrote him a note. Like, I'm done with him. You didn't save me. He didn't save me. He locked me up. I don't want to be a part of your people anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I bet he went back and was like, I feel like he understands that she's not coming back in the way that Tamlin wants her to come back.
Yeah.
And so I feel like he probably was trying to talk him out of like, hey, dude, this is a bad idea. He probably, I would hope, is like the guy who's going, why would she want to come back to you if you're letting her destroy the humans?
Yeah.
Like, this isn't Tamlin. Tamlin, this isn't a good idea. Yeah. This isn't how you do it, buddy.
Yeah.
Like, he's torn from having to listen to him.
Yeah.
Because there are hesitations throughout this whole thing. Because he glances between us all, face paling. Tamlin, he murmured.
Yeah.
So he's going, dude, knock it off.
Yeah.
Like, you've taken it too far, basically. Yeah. So. And
then talk about Jurian wants the High Lord of Night dead and to learn who his friends were. And it drove Jurian quite mad that she were never revealed. Or never revealed it during those 50 years.
Yes.
So he's like, Jurian, you can do what you want with them.
Yeah, and Favor's going, I'm not going anywhere with you, Tamlin. And King's like, you're going to say something differently when I complete the final part of my bargain. And I'm going to break that bond between the two of you.
Yes.
And he's basically like, well, you can't be leaving your husband behind to go fulfill the bargain once a month when you're finally married to Tamlin.
Yeah.
So.
And Reese is looking all distraught, barely breathing, barely moving. And he was trying to keep his scent from becoming apparent, our mating bond scent. And then this is in her head, and I think she's trying to get the fist gripping her power to let go. I am Fey and not Fey, all in none. I told the spell that gripped me. You do not hold me. I am as you are, real and not real, little more than gathered wisps of power. You do not hold me. You did not hold me. You do not hold me. She says it several times, and then the fist vanishes. She says, I became mist and shadow, which she's used that before, which is interesting. She winnows beyond his reach.
Because Tamlin was like trying to reach out and grab her to winnow away.
And then Tamlin stumbles down. And then the king then laughs. I don't believe it. Your bride left you only to find her mate. The mother has a warped sense of humor, it seems. So he's asking how did you unravel that spell? And she hears kill him, kill him, kill him, which she couldn't tell if the voice was hers or the cauldron's. And then she unleashes herself. This is where I got a little confused on exactly what was going down, to be honest. But then at some point, 4 women, 4 humans, the 4 remaining queens show up, come through the door. And then behind them, it's men dragging her sisters, gagged and bound before the king.
Dun, dun,
Bump
dun.
up. So they should have gone with them.
Now, I would argue that I know this is all happening so quickly, but they attacked Valaris.
Yes.
They'd obviously been betrayed.
Yes.
But why wouldn't they be like, I mean, I know he had soldiers there, but like, I feel like they should have been like, hey, we should probably check on my sisters.
Yeah.
And I know they were like, we gotta go beat the cauldron really quick. And like, I guess they were trusting that the soldiers were protecting them. But the queens were obviously betraying them.
Yes.
So I would have been like, my sisters.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it was quick, so it probably, obviously, maybe she was like, no, they're fine. We would have heard from the people.
Yeah.
Or it just happened while they were in here. I don't know. But
then, next chapter, 65, King's saying, the day you went after the book, I had no need of it, and I was content to let it lie hidden.
But then since you were going after it, I decided that I needed to get it, basically.
Yeah. Who better to be my liaison to the human realm than my newly reborn friend Jurian? And so he was more than happy to visit the continent for an extended visit. So he went to the queens and basically was telling them, warning them, as they say, that they were going to try to take the book.
Yes.
So the queens theoretically knew all along. And that's why it took so long to respond.
Yes. But then I'm like, what made the golden hair? I guess because she just wanted peace and knew what was about to happen.
Yeah. And then, they're talking about slaughter and ultimatums, and the king says, they wish to end life, I desire to give it. But it's like, what a scumbag. Because he's basically offering to give them eternal youth.
Yes.
Because then the cauldron shows up. And the thing is, the old queen had spoken, or one of the queens had spoken of eternal youth.
And like,
and spat in her
had
face
kind of made
about
fun
it.
of her for it. Like, what are you going to do when you outlive your sisters and you have eternal youth and nothing to do, basically?
And then he's asking, why do you think I asked my dear friend Ianthe to see who favor Archeron would appreciate having with her for eternity? So that bitch Ianthe was up to no good.
And this is when, like, Tamlin's face tightened and he's like, what?
Yeah.
And even Lucian's face had slackened.
Yes.
And he's like, she sold out Feyre's family to you. Like, they're both kind of like, oh shit, what have we done? Or at least Tamlin. I mean, Lucian's going, what have you done? I'd be like, I'm not involved in this. I couldn't talk you out of it, man. I told you it was a bad idea.
Yeah, because Anthony had like asked her about her family and her sisters and whatnot.
Yeah.
And like where they lived and all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, at least we know that Tamlin didn't sell out her sisters.
Yes.
The one thing he did not do. And he,
Yes.
throughout this entire thing, he is trying to be like, we don't need, like, I say trying with the very, very minimal trying, but I think he's saying, like, no, that wasn't part of the bargain.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I think he's going, crap. She's not going to love me after all of that.
Yeah.
So.
And then I got a little confused about
I think this is the king.
Yes.
The king explodes with power. I don't know why.
I didn't get this. This is a little confusing.
Because Rhysand covers her, and he takes the brunt of the king's power.
Yes.
Cassian covers Azriel, and his wings are shredded from the magic.
Yes.
And Mor is screaming, but it's too late.
Yes.
I don't know why he did it, other than...
He could.
Yeah.
And
I think
Azrael's crying out in pain.
Mor's going to try to go kill the king.
Yes.
But then Azrael starts screaming in pain
so she
because the king
stops.
regains his...
Yes.
Yeah, stopped a foot from the throne. Her knife clattered to the floor.
Yes.
So...
And they're
What were you thinking while you were reading all of this?
a little like, what the hell is going on?
Like, you weren't expecting it, were you?
No.
This was the spoiler that I think is another thing that's spoiled often, is that her sisters are also turned
Yes.
fae.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, because then he says, he wants to prove to the queens that it is safe for strong-willed individuals.
yes.
And so even Tamlin's saying, stop this, and the king doesn't.
Lucian's saying, stop.
Yes, Tamlin's like, this is not part of our deal, stop this now. King doesn't care. Lucian surges for Elaine in the cauldron. But then the guards just shove her, because they picked Elaine first.
Yes.
Shove her into the cauldron, down into the pot. Her head goes under. She does not come up. And then the cauldron tips itself over and dumps her out.
Yep.
And she breathes. So she is alive, at least. But she has been made.
Yeah, she has pointy ears now.
Yes.
And which I think this is just mean, like, the guards are so mean, because basically she looks naked because her nightgown is wet now.
Yeah.
And so the guards are, like, laughing at her. But Lucian goes over there and covers her up.
Yes, he does.
With his coat or whatever.
Yes. And then they take Nesta too.
Which she fights.
She fights a lot. They have to like shove her down several times.
And then she puts her finger up, like, and is like pointing at him as a threat. And I feel like it says, like, the king. I didn't highlight it, but I think the king has at least enough, like, he looks scared.
Yeah.
A little apprehensive by the point of the finger at him.
Yep. And then, you marked this as when Nesta was made, she was different. As if the cauldron in making her had been forced to give her more than it wanted. As if Nesta had fought even after she went under, and had decided that if she was going to be dragged into hell, she was taking the cauldron with her.
Yes.
Which, here's a prediction. Nesta's the one who kills the king in the later books. Yes.
I mean, I wouldn't mess with Nesta.
No. Which I guess here's another question. So when Feyre was made, she had the High Lords, and she's got all their powers. Do the other lady, her sisters now have powers? Or are they just going to have, like...
What do you think?
I don't know. Like, are they going to have special cauldron powers?
I mean, I will say, I didn't highlight it. Okay, I looked it up. When Nesta took a breath after she's been tossed out of the cauldron, and Feyre is noting, like, when I beheld my sister, with her somehow magnified her beauty, her ears, when Nesta looked at me, rage, power, cunning, but then it was gone. Shock and horror crumpled her face. So, I'm not saying that she does, but what do you think?
I don't know.
Do you think they'll have special powers?
I don't know. I thought, Feyre was going to be the most powerful, but maybe because they were dipped straight in the cauldron.
I mean, you don't really know,
I guess so.
right? That's the whole thing. You don't know what.
I don't know. But back to where we were. Mm-hmm. Lucian's then.
Wait, if you were going to predict what kind of powers they would have, what would be your guess? If they have any.
I don't know. Nesty probably something, or not Nesty. Elaine probably something with conjuring up the forest animals. I don't know. Should be a Disney princess. I don't know. Something with flowers.
Okay.
I have no idea.
Yeah, you don't really know what kind of powers other than
it's
what
the
the
same
High
with-
Lords have.
Yeah, it's the same with Fourth Wing stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I can't guess anything because I don't know what they could be.
I mean, what would you say Nesta would have?
I don't know. Something mean.
Okay. Just curious.
And then, she's like, get away from my sister, to Lucian. Mm-hmm. And then he says,
Yeah, because Elaine looks up at him finally.
yes, you're my mate. It's like, Jesus Christ, dude, what?
Did you see that
No,
coming?
I did
mean,
not.
I feel like you did say. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to be in love, and
Sure.
I mean, you don't know what happens.
I don't.
But you did say maybe Elaine and Lucian could be together.
did I?
You briefly said it.
Oh. Well,
You
there
said
go.
her, Azrael, or her and Lucian. Now, you don't know yet. And I'm
don't
not
know.
confirming nor denying that you are correct. But you did somewhat predict it. I mean, not that they'd be mates. You haven't predicted anyone to be mates.
Yeah.
So,
But then that's the end of that chapter.
yes. I mean, were you shocked?
A little. I was like, are you kidding me? Come on. That easy? You're my mate. Stupid. What is it with these Archeron girls and being mates for these Fae men?
I don't know.
Anyway, are they like half Fae? Anyway, chapter 66.
Mm-hmm.
Nesta's like, no, you're not. You are no such thing. Get away from her. And then the king is basically like, all right, ladies, to the queens, who's first? Who wants to go first?
Perhaps you'll get a handsome Fae Lord as your mate, too.
Yeah. And so the youngest one's like, I'm going to go 1st. And she's looking at all of the men like, which one do I want? And
Feyre's trying to figure out what to do.
yes.
And I think Rhysand's about to bargain with the king. And she's like, no more
Yes.
bargains.
So she unleashes her power, flash of that white light. And a flash of that light was only for Rhys. Only because of Rhys. Whatever. But then inside, she like sees in the bone walls of the castle and the wards. And she sends the blinding light at them. Mm-hmm. And like she severs the wards at their ancient arteries. I was like, okay, sure.
But then she pretends that she's been under this spell.
Yes.
Like, so she pretends like this thing has been, she's like writhing and then just the power goes.
Yes.
And she wakes up, quote unquote, and he's like, what did you do? Like, what did you do to me, to Rhysand? Like, Tamlin, take me home.
Yes. All the while she's like trying to send him
Yeah.
in mind words, get them out, get my sisters out, play along, please play along. Mm-hmm. And then
I think Rhysand's like, how'd you manage to, like, he plays along.
yeah,
He's like, how'd you manage to get out from under my spell or whatever?
yeah. And so she's telling the king, break the bond. Mm-hmm. And I think this is Stanley saying she is mine, and one day I'm going to repay every bit of pain she felt. Mm-hmm. And, I'll be happy to oblige her if she wants to end you.
Yeah, to Rhysand.
Yeah. And then the king points at her, and she screams because she describes it as being shredded, as dying, cracked sounds in her ears, and the world cleaved into as the bonds snapped.
Yeah, and this whole time Rhysand is screaming, no, please don't. It's very, like, you know what has happened. But at the time, did you think the
Yeah, I was
mating
like, what?
bond is
How can he
broken?
just break
Yeah,
the mating bond.
when I
think that
read this,
a
I was
thing.
distraught. I was like, what?
But yeah,
No!
she just accepted it. She just gave him the soup that she warmed up.
Like, can you ever get it back if you break
know.
it? Like, what?
I was going through my mind, all right, they're going to get out of this somehow, and they're going to have to, like, remate
I mean,
or
maybe
whatever.
they just say, you know what, we're not officially mates, but we still love each
That's
other.
true.
But still. So 67.
67.
And her left arm now has no tattoo
'Cause
from the
She
bargain.
had gloves on, and they took
Yes.
that glove off.
Yes.
But Moore takes her sisters and vanishes. They're gone.
Yeah, because she notes, like, oh, Moore's figured it out.
Yeah, because I think in the previous chapter, Moore was saying to Rhys, what did you do to that girl?
Yeah. So Moore, I keep wanting to call it apparates, but winnows to her sisters as, like, hey, look what we can do to Rhysand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then she takes her sisters and leaves.
Yes.
And then Rhysand, I guess, does Rhysand leave? But I guess Lucian is distraught because he's like, get her back.
Yes.
To about Elaine.
And Feyre is saying, we will get her back. Mm-hmm. And then, but Lucian's wary of her.
Yes. Yeah, I think Rhysand's gone. I think they take a look at him.
Leave.
Yeah, they look at her. They give her a longing look.
Yeah, and then they all leave too. Because then it says the entire castle shuddered as the king realized I had not been holding the book in her jacket.
Yeah, because he's like, give me the book.
Yes.
And she's like, I don't have it.
And she says, you're a mistake.
Yeah.
And she says to the king, jury, and queens, I will light your pyres myself for what you did to my sisters. And then they were gone.
Yes, so they all left.
So I think because even Tamlin and Lucian are like, we don't want to be a part of this.
Yeah, like,
This is
let's
not
get
part
out
of
of
the deal
here.
we made. So, like, we're out of here, too.
Mm-hmm. So then chapter 68 is from Rhysand's point of view, which I think you enjoyed.
I did.
Amren's like, where is she? Because they've collapsed into either the townhouse or House of Wind somewhere. And Azrael has a hole in his chest.
Yes. And Cassian's wings are
Does he
torn
have a hole
up.
in his chest?
I think so.
I thought he had, I guess so. And then...
Because Amon's,
yeah.
like, trying to heal them.
Yeah, and
later in this
Cassian doesn't have any wings. Rhysand notes, I hope we can heal them because he would rather die than not have his wings.
Yeah.
So...
They talk about Ianthe betrayed Tamlin and told the king where to find Feyre's sisters. This kind of wraps up some of the stuff we were semi-learning from the past couple of chapters.
Yes.
So the king had Feyre's sisters brought with the queens to prove he could make them immortal. Put them in the cauldron, but they couldn't do anything because he was like had this grip on them.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you, but I feel like Sarah J. Maas does a good job of, like, you know, you're reeling from that chapter and you're like, what did just happen? Because you're all kind of confused and then it's reiterated.
It's the style episode wrap up.
Yeah. Like, oh, here's what really happened.
Yes. And so, you know, just if you were confused as to what was happening, she pretended to free herself from the control Tamlin thought I'd kept on her mind. I, of course, being Rhysand. Pretended that she hated us and told him she'd go home, but only if the killing stopped, if we went free. And so Amren's asking about the bond, but Moore says she asked the king to break the bond, and he obliged. And Amren's saying, the king's a fool. That sort of bond cannot be broken. And Rhysand says, no, it can't.
So we're all like,
oh, thank God, it's not the mating bond. It was the bargain bond.
Yes.
Little did we know there was two bonds.
Yes.
So the king broke the bargain bond. Hard to do, but he couldn't tell that it wasn't the mating bond. And Amren's kind of mad. She's like, go get her right now. Yeah. And Rhysand says no.
Like she's going into that house to take him down, to take them all down. She's going to be a spy.
Yes. A direct line to me. And between us lay a whisper of color and joy, of light and shadow. A whisper of our bond.
And I think Moore's like, she's a member of your, like, she's your mate, not your spy. And he's like, no, she's the high lady.
She's the high lady of the Night Court. Which we had previously been told there are no high ladies.
Well, I mean, there's no high ladies because no one would make someone a high lady.
If they had removed her other glove, they would have seen a second tattoo on her right arm, a twin to the other, inked last night when we crept out, found a priestess, and I swore her in as my high lady. So that's what they were talking about at the end of that previous chapter.
That, like, that if I wanted to take it one step farther and make you my High Lady, would you oblige, basically?
Yes.
Because they're more is like, you mean that my High Lady is now in the hands of the enemy.
And he's like, yeah. And so they're like, what do we do?
Yeah.
And basically says, until then we go to war. Because, like, she's going to be...
Like...
right there where all the forces are coming through.
So she's, like, going to be the spy. And we're going to be prepared for war.
Yep.
Were you shocked?
A little, yeah.
Did you not see her becoming High Lady?
No. I feel like I had predicted
you might
at one point
maybe
vaguely in the first book
that
she was going to become the most powerful, whatever she was going to become.
Because they brought it up a lot, like there are no High Ladies.
Yes,
there are no High Ladies.
Obviously, she's going to become one.
It's kind of like a bomb drop at the very end of this book. After all of everything's happened, you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
So then, chapter 69, which is the last chapter in the book, is from back to Feyre's perspective.
Yes. My first note is she comments on how small and empty the manor is.
Yes.
Which, that's just a dig at Tamlin. Like, look at this stupid little house. This damn townhouse is better than this place.
And she's just, I feel like she's pissed from the inside, but she can't show it.
Yeah. And she's thinking, you sold us out, sold every innocent in this land for that, only so you could have me back. Mm-hmm. And she's saying, right alongside the bond that the King of Hybern hadn't so much as touched, because he hadn't known how deep and far he'd have to delve to cleave it.
Yeah, so basically she's covering her.
She's glamoring her
that's the word.
Her other hand now.
Yes, so they don't know.
Yes.
And Tamlin's like, I'm so glad you're back, basically, but I need to go talk to Ianthe.
Yes.
About what happened.
Which why the fuck would he do that?
Because he's stupid.
Yeah.
And she's like, no more shutting me out, no more guards. I have so much to tell you about them, bits and pieces.
Yes.
So basically, like, I'll give you the teensiest tiny, like, I don't remember much from my time there, but I'll give you what I remember.
But I can help you. We can get my sisters back. Let me help. And she's like, I can help you. She's thinking, help lead you in the wrong direction, you fool. Help bring you and your court to your knees and take down Jurian and those conniving traitors queens. And then tear Ianthe into tiny, tiny pieces and bury them in a pit no one can find.
And Lucian, this whole time, is, I think, suspicious of her.
Yes. Because she knows, as if he knew of the second tattoo beneath my glamour. Or beneath my glove and the glamour I now kept on it. Mm-hmm. And so I think the last line of the book is, and so Tamlin unwittingly led the High Lady of the Night Court into the heart of his territory.
Bum, bum, bum.
Bum, bum, bum.
Which, now you just want to go read the next book.
Yeah.
So, but, it stands true that the last 100 pages is honestly the best portion. Like, everything wraps up. Not into even a neat little bow. Because there are things that are left. But you're kind of like, everything makes sense of what's been happening. Yeah. And oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And so many wait, what? So, how did you like this book?
This one was good. I thought it was better than the first one.
So, you rated A Court of Thorns and Roses a 4.5.
Yes.
What would you rate this book on a scale of 1 to 5 stars?
I'm going to retroactively knock down that other one to 4.3 and make this one a 4.6.
Okay.
This one was better than that other one.
Okay.
And by comparison, that one goes down a little bit. This is still a good book, the first one, but this one was better.
This is my favorite book of the series. Mm-hmm. I've read it over and over and over again.
It's a good one.
Yeah. I think I always rate it 5 stars, but it's more like a infinity star. It's one of the ones that, it has kind of everything you want. A little bit of romance, a little bit of conspiring. It has a great ending where you just want to keep going.
Yeah.
So do you have any, now that we've ended where you've read the last episode, you had finished your previous reading, so now this is all brand new information.
Yeah.
Do you have any predictions for the next book?
Well, what I'm just thinking of is I think Lucian might start to get rid of his, I'll say bond, but his allegiance to Tamlin and realize, what the hell is this guy doing? I should go with her. I mean, her sister's my mate, apparently.
Yeah, and they're in the night court.
And they're in the night
They
court.
didn't say where they had put them, but
Yes.
Moore had taken them, so
Yes. They're probably at that cabin for all we know.
maybe.
Seeing all the favorite paintings. Yeah, so I think for the next book, just some vague predictions. Obviously, she's going to spend more time at the Spring Court.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to see more of the king, possibly. I'm curious if we get those queens back.
Mm-hmm.
And if they've been made, I guess.
Yeah, like, are they immortal now?
Yeah, I'm just curious to see how much we see, like, of the night court perspective, or like how long it takes.
Yeah,
how long
do you think we'll be in the Spring Court?
I don't know. I mean, it feels like it can't be right away. Obviously, she's got to do something. Spy.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
Like, how do you think her sister? Like, will we see her sisters
At some point,
and how they're
yes.
handling? I mean, they've just been made immortal against their will.
Yeah, I know, but they're with these strange people that they don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I guess they've met them a couple times.
They have, but they didn't want.
And I mean,
like,
that's
it's
the-
different than Feyre when she was made. I feel like
That's
so.
true.
It's very traumatic. I would say at the very least. So,
Yes.
what do you think of Lucian and Elaine being mates?
It seems a little random, to be honest. Like, you kidding me?
Why?
It's just because we just got the whole, like, bombshell, I suppose, of Feyre and Rhysand being mates. And then he's, like, takes one look. She's my mate.
Yeah, because they describe mates as, like, rare.
And then it's like, what?
Yeah.
A couple of them now. But
I mean, do you think anyone else is going to be mates, or do you think
I don't know.
that's it?
I don't know. Guess we'll see.
That's all the predictions you have?
Yeah, I feel like I might have thought of a wild one earlier, but I can't think of it now.
You need to write them down.
I do. I wonder if we'll see Alice again.
Maybe.
Yeah.
You're excited about
She was a
that?
good character. Yeah, I don't know.
You going to read after this?
I'll read this evening.
Yeah. Okay, so the next book is A Court of Wings and Ruin. And we are dividing it into 4 parts because the book is much longer. Or, I mean, 5 parts versus the 4 that we did for the other 2 books. So next week we are reading chapters 1 through 14 of A Court of Wings and Ruin. So if you want to read along, go read those chapters.
Dang, that one has 82 chapters.
It does.
How many chapters were in the first book? 40-something? 39 maybe even?
Yeah, 39 or 46 or something like that.
62.
Yeah.
Or 69 and then 82. Daggone.
Yeah. I mean, you can look at it. It's much thicker.
Yeah, it is sitting over there.
So we've been doing about 150 pages per week. This one's about 140-ish, depending on where the chapters ended and such. So it's very manageable if you're trying to get someone to read through the first time. It's about 20 pages a day to 10 pages a day or something if you read it once per week. So I feel like this pace is fairly good. It's not taking you 3 months to read a book.
Yeah.
But you're also not... I mean, you read all of these chapters in like a day and a half.
Yeah.
If less than 24 hours.
Partially because it was the best section of the book.
Yes.
Because things were happening. It
yes.
wasn't a bunch of, like, I'll say boring, but, info dump chapters where she's just, like, walking around Valaris or whatever. And they were all short chapters that something happened that immediately led into the next one. So you're like, well, I gotta see what happens in the next chapter.
Yeah.
And then there's another short chapter, so...
Yeah.
And, like, at least for me, on the Kindle, tells you estimated time-ish for the chapter. And so I always see, a smaller time. I was like, oh, I can go ahead and read this.
Yes.
I feel less like, ugh, I gotta read this.
Yes.
If it's a short chapter, but that's just me.
Well, we should finish A Court of Wings and Ruin by Christmas, and then we'll have the novella at the last episode of the year, and then we'll start with A Court of Silver Flames in January. So we're chugging right along. So Yeah, do you have anything else you want to add?
No,
Great book.
it was a good book.
5 out of 5.
4.6.
You won't give it up. You're not going to give
No.
anything 5 out of 5.
Nope.
It's disappointing. So go leave us a review. Make sure you subscribe. And we'll see you next week. Bye.
Goodbye.